I don't know. So they have some Twitter war now. So these both guys has to fight. The only answer for that is a cage. Like I said before, we never know. Everyone can say, I can say, I want. If you ask me, in my mind, in my head, I can beat anyone. So, but just only answer is just the cage.
Khamzat Chimaev health has taken another hit, and the road back to the cage isn't as simple as anyone thought. After months of silence, Chimaev has revealed new details about the issue that's been holding him back, an unexpected setback that forced him out of training and pushed his return far past what the UFC originally hoped for. And the story only gets more concerning when you realize this isn't the first time his body has betrayed him. But while Chimaev battles a fight outside the octagon, things inside the UFC have been heating up in a different way. In Qatar, Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett didn't just cross paths, they collided. A tense stare down, some sharp words, and a moment that instantly reignited one of the UFC's most chaotic rivalries. And trust me, it didn't end with a simple hello. So hit that subscribe button to support the channel, and let's dive right in the video. For a long time, most fans only saw Khamzat Chimaev as the wild monster in the cage, the guy who sprinted forward, smashed people, and walked out without a scratch. But behind all that, there has been a very different story going on, and most of it has stayed in the shadows. A while back, Khamzat got hit hard by a sickness after catching a virus, and it was bad enough that he ended up in the hospital more than once. At one point, he even posted things online that made people think he might be done with fighting for good. On top of that, he had surgery on his neck area. Part of his thyroid was removed, which is a pretty serious thing. That little gland helps control your energy, your weight, and how your whole body feels. If something goes wrong with it, even simple things like training or cutting weight can become a huge battle. Imagine trying to prepare for world-class fights while your own body keeps pulling you back, making you tired, dizzy, or weak when you least expect it. That's the kind of war Khamzat has been dealing with while everyone else only talks about his wins and his callouts. There have been stories about him coughing up blood, struggling in camp, and pushing so hard in training that his coaches had to force him to rest. To the outside world, he is this unstoppable force. But to the people close to him, there have been nights where they didn't know if he should even step into the cage again. And this quiet, constant fight with his health is what makes his latest update so worrying, because it shows that the problems haven't fully gone away yet. If anything, they may be catching up with him right when his career is supposed to be hitting its peak. The new information Khamzat shared about his health sounds simple at first, but it actually says a lot. He explained that he needs a minor operation on his foot and that he's going to be out until after Ramadan next year. On paper, that might sound like just a small delay. Fighters pull out with injuries all the time. But when you put it next to everything else he's been through, it starts to feel like another piece of a much bigger puzzle. A small operation on the foot can still be a big deal for someone whose whole style is built around explosive movement, takedowns, and driving people across the cage. Your foot is your base. It's how you push off, how you shoot for a double leg, how you plan to throw those heavy hooks. If something is wrong there, you can't hide it. And being forced to step away from training for weeks means he loses that rhythm, that sharpness, that timing that made him so scary in the first place. On top of that, waiting until after Ramadan adds even more time. That means months without a real fight, more questions from fans, and more chances for his rivals to climb up the rankings while he sits on the sidelines watching. Instead of talking about his next title shot or a huge main event, we're talking about recovery schedules, surgery, and we'll see what happens after. He says he'll face whoever they give him, and you can tell that the warrior in him still wants to fight anyone, anytime. But the truth is, his body is starting to set the rules now, not his mind. And that change is huge, because it could decide not just when he fights again, but what version of Khamzat we see when he finally returns. Even though nothing physical happened in that moment, the impact was huge. As soon as the clips hit social media, fans went wild. Comment sections filled up with people taking sides, arguing over who won the exchange, and begging the UFC to finally book the fight. Some people said Paddy looked nervous, others said Ilia was too emotional. Some thought it was all mind games, that Paddy tried to play it cool while Topuria showed he's still carrying that rivalry with full force. No matter how you saw it, one thing was clear. The beef is still very real. The UFC loves this kind of energy because it makes people care. It makes future matchups bigger. Even if these two are in different parts of their careers and fighting different opponents right now, that little moment in Qatar reminded everyone that this story isn't done. Any card, any city, any weight class, if the UFC ever announces Topuria versus Pimblett, the build-up will already be half finished. Their history, their insults, and their face-to-face moments have built a storyline that doesn't need a belt to feel important. And when you look at Khamzat's situation next to this, you start to see the bigger picture of how much health, timing, and drama can shape what we actually see on fight night. That's why all of this matters so much. On one side, you have Khamzat Chimaev, a fighter who seems made to be a champion but is stuck fighting battles his fans rarely see. His body, his health, his surgeries, these things control when he can chase his dreams, no matter how much his mind wants to go to war. On the other side, you have Ilia and Paddy, two healthy fighters whose careers are being shaped just as much by their words and their tension as by their actual fights. The UFC is built on moments like these. A scary health update can change the whole future of a division. A hallway stare down in Qatar can spark years of interest and set up a mega fight down the road. Fans often only see the finished product, the walkouts, the bright lights, the final stare down before the bell rings. But the truth is, the sport is shaped just as much by the things that happen when the cameras aren't supposed to be there. A doctor's visit, a call from a manager saying a fight is off, two rivals sharing the same elevator. All of these tiny scenes stack up and create the stories that keep people watching, arguing, and caring. Right now, Khamzat's story is one of questions. Will his body let him be the fighter we all thought he would be? Ilia and Paddy's story is about collision, not if they meet again, but when and where. And as all of this plays out, fans are left in that perfect place of curiosity where they need to know what happens next. Because in MMA, everything can change with one test result, one injury, or one angry face-to-face in a crowded arena hallway. In the end, both stories show just how unpredictable the fight game really is. One moment, a fighter like Khamzat Chimaev looks unstoppable, and the next, he's forced to step back and face health problems that would break most people. His journey is no longer just about who he can beat inside the cage, it's about whether his body will let him chase the greatness everyone expected from him. And while he battles that private war, the rest of the MMA world keeps moving, filled with tension, rivalries, and surprises. The run-in between Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett proves that some fires don't burn out with time. Even a brief meeting in a hallway can shake the internet and remind everyone that the biggest fights often start long before anyone touches gloves. These moments, both the quiet struggles and the loud confrontations, are what make MMA so addictive. They show us the human side of the chaos, the emotion beneath the highlight reels, and the stories that keep fans guessing about what's coming next. And if this week is any sign, the next chapter is going to be even crazier. If you want to stay on top of every twist, every update, and every behind-the-scenes moment, make sure you subscribe to MMA Desk. All of this leads to one big question that a lot of people don't want to ask out loud. What's really at stake for Khamzat Chimaev right now? This isn't just about one fight getting moved or one card changing. This is about his whole path inside the UFC. He is supposed to be one of the faces of the new era, a guy who can fight at different weights, call out champions, and headline events around the world. But constant health problems and surgeries can freeze all that momentum in place. Every time he has to pull back, the division moves on without him. New names show up, old rivals get closer to the belt, and the story shifts away from who can stop Khamzat to will Khamzat ever get his big run. In the middleweight division, time is not your friend. There are hungry fighters waiting for their shot, and the UFC has to keep the machine moving. If Khamzat can't stay active, they will start giving those huge chances to other people. And think about the pressure this puts on his next fight. Whenever he does step back into the cage, he won't just be fighting his opponent. He'll be fighting all the questions about his stamina, his health, and his future. One bad performance, one injury in the middle of a fight, and the conversation flips. People go from calling him a future champion to wondering if his body has already hit its limit. On the other hand, if he comes back strong, smashes someone, and shows that he's still the wolf everyone fears, the story could change overnight. That's what makes this moment so intense. He's standing at a crossroads where his next move could either revive the hype or confirm the doubts. And while Khamzat is dealing with all of this behind closed doors, the rest of the UFC world is still full of chaos, drama, and rivalries that keep boiling over in public. One of the wildest scenes recently happened far away from the cage, in Qatar, and it involved two guys who can't stand each other, Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett. These two have been throwing shots at each other for years. It started with social media, interviews, and little jabs here and there. Topuria called Paddy overrated. Paddy fired back, saying Topuria was just trying to use his name for clout. Things got even more heated when there was that famous moment where Topuria threw a bottle at Paddy, and the whole hallway turned into a mess of shouting and chaos. Ever since then, their names have been stuck together in fans' minds, so when both fighters ended up in Qatar at the same time, people already knew something might happen. Fighters staying in the same hotel, walking the same hallways, sharing the same elevators, it was only a matter of time before they crossed paths. Cameras were everywhere, fans were filming, reporters were watching, and security knew they needed to stay close. The place had this strange tension in the air, like everyone was just waiting for that 1 second when the two men turned a corner and came face to face. And that's exactly what ended up happening. It wasn't planned. It wasn't in the cage. It was just real, raw energy between two people who genuinely do not like each other, stuck in the same building, on the same weekend, with the whole world watching through their phone screens. When Ilia and Paddy finally ran into each other, it happened fast, but every second felt loaded. Paddy started off with a simple line, something like, "What's happening? Everything all right?" On the surface, it sounds casual, almost friendly, but with their history, everyone knew there was nothing friendly about it. Topuria fired back right away, throwing an insult, not even trying to hide how much he dislikes Paddy. The mood shifted instantly. You could see the body language change. Paddy's smile dropped a bit as he told Ilia to calm down, like he was trying to show he wasn't scared or bothered. People around them were already leaning in, waiting to see if someone would throw the first punch. Security stepped closer, ready to jump in. There were phones out, recording every angle, because fans knew that even a few seconds of these two going at it would explode online. But instead of swinging, it stayed at sharp words, tense stares, and that almost uncomfortable feeling where you know both guys want to do more, but also know they can't. The organization doesn't want a full-on brawl in the middle of a weigh-in area or hotel lobby, and the fighters know any big move could cost them money, fights, or even their spot on the card. So what we get is this powerful standoff, no punches, just attitude. And sometimes, that's even more intense, because it leaves everyone wondering what would have happened if security hadn't been there, or if they'd met in a less controlled place.